I have known Rachel for a long time, worked on a few ballot issues with her, one candidate campaign a few years ago. And so this is great. And like Mark said, having somebody on the show who's smarter than we are can only help us. So
I feel like I'm getting buttered up for something. Are you going to ask me for money?
Well, that's it. You have to pay to be on our podcast. You didn't see that in the email?
Explain that. All of our guests pay to be on.
I run a
Yes.
nonprofit. I'm not your woman.
All of our guests. Yeah, absolutely. That's how this goes. So
I'd
we're going to
be
do
happy-
this.
I'd be happy if we were just a nonprofit.
Yes.
We're below nonprofit.
Yeah, we are a negative profit.
Yeah.
So the way we're going to do it tonight, though, is we're going to give everybody has to give their opinion on the ballot initiative, and we're going to do it. Since this is Colorado and we love our state, if you like the ballot initiative, I'm climbing the 14er. If you don't like the ballot initiative, I'm not climbing that 14er. I'm sitting at home on the couch.
Perfect. That works. Do you want to get started?
Let's do it.
All right. Here we go. We have to start with.
Oh my God, look at those guys.
Yep.
Kyle, you're a good-looking man.
With our mugs there and everything for the branding. So, Mark, you're going to take the first slide here so you can explain to all of us what the hell constitutional amendments and statutory propositions are.
Yeah, so 14 statewide measures, and Rachel, please, being the leading expert, correct me if I'm wrong. 14.
You're wrong.
Well, it happens on a regular basis. 14 statewide ballot measures, 7 constitutional, 7 statutory. Constitutional amendments are called amendments. Statutory provisions are called propositions. The letters designate that it was something that was referred to the ballot by the legislature. Numbers refer to citizen initiatives. So, for example, G is a constitutional amendment that is referred by the legislature, whereas Proposition 128 is a ballot initiative or going in the Colorado statutes, and that is referred by the petition process via signatures from the people. So now you can all talk smart to your friends and use that at cocktail parties.
Also interesting to note, I think that half of these were citizen initiatives and half were referred to us by the legislature.
Yes.
Well, here's the one maybe you could explain to me. I don't know a lot about the legislature, but I see 2 statutory propositions, right? JJ and KK, that are referred by the legislature. Why not just pass those bills themselves?
Well, JJ is a Tabor requirement.
Mm.
I think KK is too. Got to check my notes here.
Nice. So that because they're Tabor requirements, they have to put on the ballot?
Obviously, citizens have to vote on all Tabor-related issues.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is not a tax increase, but a retention, and the other is an actual tax increase,
Mm-hmm.
right?
No, I think it's interesting to note in the broader context of what voters are thinking. There's some interesting polling that came out recently that said that 81% of Colorado voters really like being able to vote directly on all of these various topics that we have to decide on this year and in many years. I remember a few years ago, I had a colleague come into my office. She'd just moved here for the job from Wisconsin. She came into my office and she plopped this giant sheath of papers on my desk. And she said, "What the hell is this? The budget, abortion, wolves?" And I realized it was her ballot. And this is another one of those years where Colorado voters are deciding on really a very broad scope of issues. And recent polling that I saw ranked some of these issues that we've decided on in recent years. And Tabor, the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights, came in at the top. 69% of people thought this was a great idea. Interestingly, it was followed closely by the legalization of marijuana at 67%. So I guess we're all going to smoke a bowl and talk about taxes. which maybe is the best way to talk about taxes. I don't know.
I'm just always surprised that any marijuana initiative passes because the people that are stoned are too damn lazy to go vote.
To go vote. Well,
So
well,
We do make it very easy in Colorado, though. to
true,
vote.
you can get high on your couch and send your ballot in. So
so
That is-
so maybe
What a
instead
time
of
to be alive.
maybe instead of climbing the 14ers today, you're either smoking a bowl or sitting on the couch.
Oh God, let's not do that.
Okay, we'll stick with the 14ers.
all right. You guys ready to dive in?
Let's get into it, buddy.
Here you go, Mark.
All right, property tax exemption for certain veterans. You know, as a veteran, these are always things that are interesting to me. But currently, in this is how I understand this one. Currently, Colorado law, we have what's called a senior homestead property tax exemption, which reduces, in many cases, cuts in half property taxes for eligible seniors. We expanded that a few years ago to veterans that are 100% disabled. And all this initiative does is expands that even further to those that have an unemployability status. Generally speaking, I'm not a huge fan of adding shit to the Constitution, but in this case, since it's already there, seems like the right thing to do.
Yeah, this one feels like a no-brainer to me. So I would definitely say I'm climbing the mountain on this one.
Yeah, I'm climbing the mountain on this one too, though I don't know what unemployability status means. Rachel?
Yeah, the folks who are opposed to this are saying that designation, which is a U.S. Veterans Administration designation, is not necessarily a permanent thing. I tend to think this was a bit of an oversight for already including veterans in that property tax exemption. Certainly the folks who cannot work as a result of their service ought to have been included. And we're talking about 3,400 more veterans and $1.8 million to reimburse local governments for the anticipated tax exemption that would result if this passes. That doesn't seem like a big burden to me for people who have lost their ability to work in the context of their service.
Oh my God, Kyle, did you hear that? She has the dollar amounts that are going to be saved or spent as a result of these ballot initiatives.
So I would say, Mark, you get the MVP tonight for being able to sign up this guest. Because this is already, after just 1 out of 14 issues, has already elevated the education factor that this show normally provides.
And demonstrated our proposition.
Yes.
Still not giving you money.
Okay.
You seem to understand it well. Why not?
All right. Why in the hell?
All right. So all three of us climbing the mountain on this one.
Okay.
Climbing the 14er.
H, judicial discipline procedures. Shall there be an amendment to the Colorado Constitution concerning judicial discipline and in connection therewith establishing an independent judicial discipline adjudicative board, setting standards for judicial review of a discipline case and clarifying when discipline proceedings become public?
Kyle, could you say adjudicative a few more times?
Well, I didn't quite get that. Can you read the whole thing again? No, I'm kidding.
I'm like, oh my God, but I did pronounce that one word correct.
I'm impressed.
So I am not that familiar with this one, so I'm going to let you guys jump in. I mean, at least to me, it seems like it's just saying we're going to have a whole special board to pay attention to judges and mete out discipline if they need it.
This is one that I'm climbing the mountain on because, Kyle, you started to give my introduction and I think Mark cut it off to go off on some rabbit hole. But
I do it all the time.
My day job is primarily working with the state legislature. And this is one where, based on some judicial misconduct scandals, the legislature decided to put together an interim committee that would specifically study this issue. And our friend Senator Bob Gardner was on that committee. We think very highly of him and his
Speak for
perspective.
yourself, please. No, I'm kidding.
Former
All right,
guest
I won't
on our
use the
show,
word
yes.
No, absolutely. We all love him.
But they looked at, what is the best way to examine when misconduct cases are brought against judges, and how can we make that more transparent with the goal of giving the public more confidence in the court system. And so what they decided was that it would be a good idea to suggest to the voters that there ought to be a separate board. The members will be appointed by the governor and the state Supreme Court that will review these cases. They will decide when they are public and suggest disciplinary actions. And this one was supported almost unanimously by our state legislature. And I think that speaks very highly in its favor.
I'm climbing the mountain on this one too, Kyle. I think Rachel's spot on about it. It creates a new level of transparency in judicial review proceedings. It's I think in the kind of first review panels, a 12-person panel, 4 judges, 4 lawyers, and 4 regular people. And then if they decide to go forward with cases, that kind of gets whittled down to I believe it's a 3-person panel. And Rachel's right. This is about reviewing some issues that we've had in the judiciary, creating more transparency, and also, quite frankly, trying to create a better perception of the judiciary amongst the Colorado electorate. I'm climbing the mountain.
And again, a constitutional amendment requiring 55% to pass. One thing I forgot to mention at the beginning, for those listening to us, you really might want to go on YouTube and watch today's episode, because we have a lovely presentation that we're following that just makes this a more visually rich experience to go with the eloquence that we usually provide. So
I would say its richness matches our eloquence perfectly.
Kyle, you can say, are you on the couch or on the mountain on that one?
Oh, I'm on the mountain on that one.
You're climbing the judicial mountain?
I am.
The judicial 14 Mount Judge?
Yep, absolutely. Okay, constitutional bail exemption for first-degree murder. That kind of sums it up.
Well, what sort of gets me on this one is the fact that we actually need to have this. I think it's ridiculous that we do need to have it. And I'm definitely climbing the mountain on this one. But, in Colorado statute, it says, there are certain offenses that if you commit them, you're not eligible for bail. You just can't get bail at all. And the Supreme Court, the Colorado Supreme Court, in its infinite wisdom a few years ago said, well, that's unconstitutional because everybody has the right to bail. So there is nothing in the Constitution that says you don't have a right to bail. So the legislature said, okay, we get it. You've found our statutes to be invalid. So we are going to pass a constitutional amendment. And the constitutional amendment says in certain circumstances, you don't get bail. And in particular, certain first-degree murder circumstances, you don't get bail. And this is a no-brainer. I'm definitely climbing the mountain on this one.
Rachel?
I'm sitting on the couch on this one. Our legal system says that a person is innocent until proven guilty. And if an individual is ultimately found not guilty at trial, but they've had a pretrial detention, that means they've spent time in jail for a crime that they didn't commit. And I think that raises significant concerns about justice and fairness, and the time lost and the impacts on their lives cannot be undone. And judges already have the discretion to set restrictive bail conditions if they think a person is especially violent or likely to commit another offense. So I think the tools are already in the toolbox.
Sean Puffy Combs fan right there, obviously, because he can afford a $2 gazillion. It's either that or she's planning on murdering somebody after this fails. I don't know. Which is it?
I won't say who.
You know what's interesting for me on this, listening to you two go back and forth on it, I'm not real sure where I land on this. I mean, if it's already available from the judges, I'm not sure why we have to vote on it, but I'm also kind of in favor of first-degree murder people or criminals,
Suspects.
murderers. I'm not even saying it right. I'm fine if murderers stay in jail while they're being tried.
Yeah, and so just to be clear, it's not available. So the judge has the discretion up to something that does not include no bail. So the judge can say your bail's $5 million or $10 million, but can't say no bail.
Okay.
Which, by the way, it's federal level, perfectly legal, no bail. And every other state except for Colorado. No, I don't know if it's every other state or not. But hey, listen, we get it. Rachel likes Sean Puffy Combs, and who could bail out in Colorado if he was here, being held in New York without bail. But yeah, it's one where we disagree.
Nice. Okay.
And I like how Kyle frickin' plays Switzerland in that, right?
Absolutely.
There's no middle ground in this little game of yours. Driving to the trailhead and changing your mind. I don't know.
Okay, then on
There
the
are
last
no rules
one,
here, Rachel.
on the last one, I'll climb the mountain on that with Mark.
Oh, let's do it.
Okay. J, repeal marriage definition in Constitution. From what I understand, is this one really needed?
Well, how about you climb them? I mean, go ahead, Rachel.
I think it depends on who you ask. I'm climbing the mountain on this one. I think this is an antiquated provision in the Constitution. The Supreme Court ruled on this, 9 years ago, and it's still sitting there in our Constitution. And it's time to take it out.
But don't we already have a law in Colorado allowing same-sex marriage?
No. What we have is a federal provision that says that same-sex marriage can happen. And so Colorado's Constitution is not in line with now the Supreme Court's interpretation of the federal Constitution. This is just a cleanup provision. That's all it is. It makes our Constitution align with the law of the land. And by the way, I'm a huge fan of this. I think this is something. I'm climbing the mountain on this. But I'm also climbing the mountain on this one because it actually makes the Constitution smaller. I love that.
All right. It's unanimous. I'm climbing the mountain on this one too.
All right.
Okay. Next up, modification of deadlines in elections.
Definitely the sexiest subject on the ballot this year.
I was going to say, this is one of those life or death issues that I love having come forward and giving the people of Colorado a chance to weigh in on it.
I'll tell you, as a county commissioner, we were always talking to the clerk and recorder, and there was constant struggle between some legislation that passed a couple of years ago and then constitutional deadlines that are in the state constitution. All this does is cleans that up. I'm climbing this mountain, but it's a boring mountain to climb.
Yeah, I'm voting for it, but I'm turning around at bar camp. I'm not going all the way up on this one.
You're not going to summit it?
No.
I don't think I know what that means, Kyle.
I'm in favor of it, but I'm just not going to make the extra effort.
You're filling in half the bubble?
Yes.
If his chat is hanging, he's going to leave it.
Yes.
Oh, I'm on the other side of this one, guys. I'm staying on the couch. I'm not buying it. I think that for some initiatives, this is going to mean citizens have less time to collect signatures and file petitions. And I think that's a really important right that we have in Colorado. And certainly we've seen on this ballot and other ballots that citizens are taking advantage of this. It's gotten harder and harder to collect the required number of legal signatures that you need to put something on the ballot. And I'm just not sure why we need to take away a week of that valuable time for government officials to do whatever they're doing behind the scenes.
But couldn't we just back up the whole process by a week for them that way?
I'm not sure that's what this does.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, not one I've spent a whole lot of time on, but I'll buy that. I'm still climbing this mountain, but I'll buy that.
Okay. I thought it added a week, so I'm really out to lunch.
Reduce it, and I think it's by 7 or 8 days. Yeah.
It adds a week for the Secretary of State and the processes that are happening at the state level for filing initiatives, referendums, and so forth. It moves up a week the notices that judges must file to have their names added to ballots if they would like to go for retention. And it makes deadlines 1 month earlier for nonpartisan research staff to publish the official text and titles of ballot measures. But, you know, all of that's available online now. We have widespread media coverage of the details of all of these things. So I just don't think that's necessary.
Does that include judges that are under review by the board that's being voted on earlier?
It will after this. No, they
Good
get
question.
they come up for retention every 10 years.
Oh, Jesus.
Yep.
Okay. 79. So this one was put on by citizens. The constitutional right to abortion. Shall
What do
there
you
be?
think?
Go
What do you
ahead.
think, Kyle?
Oh, I'm climbing the mountain on this one. Absolutely.
Go on.
Not even a question for me.
You're
What
gonna
about you
yodel when
guys?
you get to the top of the mountain.
Will I what?
You're gonna yodel when you get to the top of the mountain.
I don't think anybody wants to hear me yodel. But no, I'm absolutely supportive of this. What about you guys?
Rachel?
Yeah, I'm climbing the mountain on this one too. You know, I think like many women around the country, some of the recent changes that have happened in the country around what I think is a very personal and difficult decision have frightened me. And so I'll be voting for this one.
I think it's okay for you to both be wrong on this issue. Let's just say it that way. I am not only sitting on the couch, I'm going to be eating a bag of Funyuns and watching old episodes of Hogan's Heroes as I'm sitting on the couch on this one. Here's my issue with it. Right now in Colorado, this thing passes, nothing's going to change. Absolutely nothing is going to change. A woman in the state of Colorado today can get an abortion in the 9-month mark, hours before she's ready to deliver. That is something that is protected in Colorado statute right now. This is one of those things I don't think belongs in the Constitution. There's no danger or threat of this changing in any way in the near future. I mean, you'd have to have effectively complete Republican control of the House, the Senate, and the governor's mansion. That ain't going to happen. And if there is a federal abortion ban, Colorado Constitution doesn't matter anyway, as we demonstrated earlier with the discussion on the repeal of the definition of marriage being between a man and a woman. So I just don't think this belongs in the Constitution. I'm sitting on the couch.
I'm still climbing the mountain because I believe it's right.
Yeah, you're right. This is largely symbolic. But you talked about what would have to happen for it to change, but I don't think that many of us ever thought it would change at the federal level, and that happened very fast. So for a lot of folks, having that in the Constitution is a lot of security.
Well, when Republicans control all 3 levers of the government, if this fails, which it's not going to, but if this fails, Republicans control all 3 levels of the government, we'll bring it back. I just don't think it belongs in the Constitution. That's all.
Okay. Cool. Mark, why don't you take this one?
Yeah. So constitutional right to school choice, kind of like constitutional right to abortion, right? But here, this one's kind of personal to me. Definitely personal, because I don't know if you two know, I was homeschooled from 6th grade on. So I am obviously the poster child for school choice, and maybe the reason this should pass, right? I mean, if you think about it, look at me. I'm a lawyer, politician. I get along incredibly well with everybody, super bright, good looking. Obviously that's a result of homeschooling. So I'm the poster child for this. And I'm sure, and feel free to weigh in if you guys want to agree with me. I'd appreciate that.
Were you self-taught?
I mean, obviously you look at me and it's a right for school choice, but I'm actually sitting on the couch on this one for the same reasons that I'm sitting on the couch on the abortion issue. We don't need to put this in the Colorado Constitution. The legislature should be able to make these determinations and these decisions. And I think that school choice is going to be just fine in the legislature moving forward. This passes, I don't think anything is going to change. So I'm sitting on the couch for the same reasons as the abortion provision.
I'm sitting on the couch on this one too.
What's your thinking, Kyle?
He doesn't want to protect me. People like me.
No,
that's what it comes down to.
I'm not a fan of taking public dollars to private schools. That's my issue.
I'm sitting on the couch on this one too, but I'm much more pragmatic about it. I don't get it. I think this lacks detail. It's unclear what it's intended to do. I don't know how lawmakers will interpret this and what its direction is. Nothing's going to change. Colorado kids, parents already have a choice in how they're educating their kids. We have a robust network of charter schools. We have open enrollment in most districts. Private schools are thriving. Homeschooling's alive and well in the state. This one's a bit of a head scratcher to me.
Yeah, I would say this though, as compare them to the abortion, protecting that versus protecting school choice. I'd say, if you look at the makeup of the legislature today, there is a greater chance that school choice would be taken away than a woman's right to an abortion in the state of Colorado. I think a much greater chance that school choice rights are taken away, but I still don't think it's going to happen, and I don't think it belongs in the Constitution.
No,
Kyle, were you going to say more on this one? I think I might have cut you off.
No, but some of the things you were talking about there are enough choices out there already. Absolutely. I agree with that. And again, I just don't believe in taking the public money to private schools. So absolutely voting no. And sitting next to you two on the couch. All right.
We're going to watch Old School when we sit on the couch for that one.
Nice. So now we are off to the statutory propositions. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Prop JJ.
So it only takes 50% of the vote for these to pass.
Yes. Retain additional sports betting tax revenue. So help me here. Without raising taxes, may the state... Oh, is this just detabering?
The Tabor override. That's all it is.
Okay.
It's not. I don't think it's actually detabering. I think it's just asking for a Tabor retention.
Perfect.
We're all from El Paso County, right? So we're required to wear the text of Tabor as a tattoo on our arms, like the football plays. And one of the things that Tabor says is that when we vote on a tax increase, there has to be an estimate of how much money it's going to raise. And if the staff that makes the estimate misses the mark, then we must go back to the voters and ask if the state can keep and spend the additional revenue that was unanticipated to be retained. So this one's pretty simple. That's all we're doing. The state underestimated just how popular legalizing sports betting in our casinos in the state and online would be, to the tune of $2.5 million each year. So all this says is that thing you approved that said we can take that sports betting tax and spend it on projects in the state water plan. We've got 2.5 million more every year than we thought. Can we keep that too? And if we say no, then it goes back to those sports betting vendors that collected it, and it's refunded.
Where do you two stand on this?
I'll be climbing the mountain on this one.
How about you, Kyle?
I'm climbing the mountain too. what about you, Mark?
I'm climbing the mountain, but
Oh,
I'm not going to bet on Rachel making it to the top of the mountain before the two of us do.
See,
ouch.
I was going to bet on Rachel making it to the top before we did. So
Well, I guess I'm not going to bet on you and I to make it there before her. How's that? That's what I meant to say.
Either way that you bet, you'll be contributing to water projects in the state, so you can feel good.
You know,
Nice.
when I go hiking, I contribute to water projects in the state because I'm a boy.
Nice.
I don't want to
He
know
got
about
it.
that. Nobody
He
needs to know
got it.
about that.
Come on.
Nope.
That was awesome.
I'm telling you, just go to the bathroom once a day in your backyard and you think of how much water we'd save.
You
Okay.
say that like I don't already do that.
I really hope you two won't be proposing this to the state as part of the water plan.
No,
No. Okay. KK, firearms and ammunition excise tax. And if for those of you who are watching our informative show this evening, this one is in all caps because it's a Tabor issue. Is that correct?
So not because it's a Tabor issue, but actually because it's a tax increase.
Tax
So the
increase.
last one wasn't in
Okay.
all caps because it's just a Tabor retention. This
Okay.
one is a tax increase, all caps.
And see, I think it's harder to read things that are in all caps in a
Well,
paragraph.
they just want to shout tax increases at you, and everybody knows that, all caps is the written shouting word.
But old people vote more than young people, and so they should make it easier for us to read it.
Mm.
I don't think you're in that demographic yet, Kyle.
Oh,
The old people that vote the most.
I am right at the average. I am almost 63, and the last Colorado Springs municipal election, the average age of voters was 63.
Oh, overachiever.
So I am. So this would add an additional 6.5% sales tax on guns and ammo. Is that correct?
Yep. I'm sitting on the couch and cleaning my gun on this one all the way. All
Why?
the freaking way, and counting my bullets.
Why?
With that, because it's an extra 6.5% sales tax on guns. I mean, so you already paid 7.5%. If you buy a gun in downtown Colorado Springs, now you're gonna be paying like 13, 14%. That's bullshit. No.
Why is it bullshit?
I'm climbing the mountain on this one because I've been swayed by their part in here about funding mental health services, including for military veterans and at-risk youth, school safety, and gun violence prevention. If the money goes to that, I'm climbing the mountain for it.
Yeah, I don't see a gun as being different than buying anything else at the store. And why would we penalize people who purchase firearms? Perhaps it will contribute to the black market even more. No, I'm sitting on the couch.
All right, Rachel, tiebreaker.
I haven't decided on this one. I guess I'm doing the go to bar camp and turn around. I
Well,
don't know.
that would be not deciding. Would be go to bar camp and spend the night.
Yeah, or you go to the incline and you stand there and then you look up and like, oh shit, that's too far. that would be not.
I'm gonna go to bar camp. I'm gonna spend the night, and I'm gonna think about this one.
Perfect. All right.
I just don't know. I don't know if it's gonna accomplish what it's meant to accomplish. The arguments on both sides, I think, are fairly convincing.
Besides, I have a lot more guns to buy, and I just don't want to pay 6.5% more for them. I'm kidding about that. I don't want to pay 6.5% more.
I will not be buying any more guns, and so it's not going to affect me. Issue 127, prohibiting bobcat, lynx, and mountain lion hunting. That's pretty much sums it up. Even though we have the ballot language here, it makes it a class 1 misdemeanor to kill a bobcat, lynx, or mountain lion. There are exceptions, but you may have to prove the killing was done under an exception. What would those exceptions be?
devil's in the details on this one. First of all, I don't support it. I'm sitting on the couch on this one. Maybe I'll watch Animal Planet while I'm sitting on the couch, but I'm sitting on the couch on this one for a couple of reasons. Yeah, number one, I think it's hard for people who don't have that WUI interface, that wild land urban interface, or that wildland interface with wildland areas, to be able to vote on these things, because I think it's really hard to understand them. It's hard to understand how a mountain lion can have an impact on your livestock, or how you deal with taking your dog out at night when you're in fear that a mountain lion may grab it or something like that. It says that there are some provisions in place, to some exceptions in place. So, for example, if you hit a mountain lion with your car, you're not going to be charged with a Class 1 misdemeanor. And theoretically, if you're protecting your livestock and you kill a mountain lion or a lynx or a bobcat, then that's an exception to this issue. But you might still be charged with a crime, and then you have to prove that you were protecting your livestock. We have something in Colorado called the Castle Doctrine. And the Castle Doctrine says if somebody breaks into your house and you shoot them, the district attorney can't even charge you with a crime, can't even look at it, issue precluded from even charging you. But that's not the circumstance here. You shoot a mountain lion, DA might charge you anyway, and you have to go through all of the legal expense showing that you were protecting your livestock. And what is livestock? Is it chickens? Is it 4 dogs while you're out on a hike? Or is it just cows? I don't know. So I'm sitting on the couch on this one.
Okay, Rachel?
I really have mixed feelings on this one. And I feel like I don't have enough information. I think I'm in the 19% of folks who really don't want to be having to make these decisions on my ballot. My general impression is, do we have a big problem with mountain lions killing livestock and being a threat? No.
Because we hunt them now. That's why. No, I'm kidding. Go
ahead.
I
live in downtown Denver. What do I know? I tend to think that I find this distasteful, the hunting of these sorts of animals. And I'm told that a lot of hunting of these is not done by Coloradans who are playing a role in ecological balance. It's commercial guides who are charging thousands of dollars to take tourists out for trophy hunting. On the other hand, I see what's happened with our voter-approved wolf reintroduction, and I mentioned the polling that asked people what were our best and worst ideas that we had passed on the ballot, and wolf reintroduction came in very bottom of the barrel for voters across demographics. And I think we have a State Department full of conservation professionals who have expertise in this field, and I prefer to leave these decisions to them. And there are some restrictions on how this works. There are a certain amount of tags that people can purchase and so forth. And as I said, I think I'd really rather leave these decisions to conservation professionals who have a lot more information than I do. So that's kind of a long non-answer. I guess I'm still on the fence about this one.
Well, it kind of sounded like you were climbing the bar trail and turning around, not staying overnight.
Sleeping there again.
Yeah, no, it sounded like you're actually okay. I'm gonna maybe sit on the couch, but I'm just not gonna do it loudly.
I'm walking toward the couch, but
You're getting a beer out of the fridge and heading that direction?
I'm not, no, because if I decide to climb the mountain, I can't do it with a beer.
We believe in you, Kyle. Yes, you can.
Here's my question. Here. So I've done work in the past for the Colorado Division of Parks and Wildlife. And in fact, it was an advertising campaign around the value of hunting and fishing in Colorado. And part of that has to do with, like Rachel was talking about, the balance, the ecological balance of like how many deer in Colorado. I guess what I'd be curious to know is, how many mountain lion, lynx, and bobcat licenses do we issue currently? Because if you stop managing those populations, it's going to throw something else out of balance. And I don't know if that's something happening to the deer population because more of them will be taken by these animals, or will there be more interactions with humans in those wildland interface areas you were talking about, Mark? I don't know. So right now, for me, I would like to know a little bit more about what is currently happening with these. And so I'm just going to stand in the living room for a while.
I do think it's interesting to note on that note, Kyle, that it's already illegal to hunt lynx because they
Yeah.
are an endangered species. And so why that was included in this measure, I'm not sure.
Because they're an endangered species, right? And make it more attractive for voters to pass.
Yeah, could be.
So is a class 1 misdemeanor the closest thing to a felony in the misdemeanor rankings?
Yes,
So
it's the highest level of misdemeanor.
Okay.
So punishable by 2 years in jail. That's kind of the maximum penalty.
Okay, cool. All right, moving on. Parole eligibility for crimes of violence. We touched on this one in a previous episode, but this changes the Colorado statutes concerning parole eligibility for an offender convicted of certain crimes. So for second-degree murder, first-degree assault, and class 2 felony kidnapping, sexual assault, first-degree arson, first-degree burglary, aggravated robbery, committed on or after January 1st of next year, they have to serve 85% of their sentence before being eligible for parole. And the current threshold is 75%. Is that correct?
Well, it's 75% for any crime of violence.
Okay.
This is just a truth in sentencing provision. Yeah, I'm climbing the mountain on this one.
Me too.
Oh, I'm sitting on the couch. I am unconvinced that 10% makes much of a difference. And like the last one, this is one where I tend to think I don't have the required expertise as a voter to be making these sorts of decisions. And the judges in the court system and the parole officers who make this their life's work and have the expertise ought to be making these decisions.
What is it with Rachel and being soft on crime? I don't, what's going on here?
Having expertise or lack of it never stopped me. So I'm climbing. Okay. And another one of those that I believe is really going to weigh heavily on the citizens of Colorado. establishing veterinary professional associates. And Mark, you talked about this, explained this on one of our other episodes, so I'm going to let you roll through this again. You did a good job.
I think this one's interesting because the opponents and proponents say the same thing. The opponents say, if you pass this, it's going to endanger our pets. And the proponents say, if you don't pass this, it's going to endanger our pets. I look at this like this veterinary professional associate would be to a veterinarian what a physician's assistant is to a physician or a medical doctor. Seems right to me. I think it's the kind of thing that would help in rural areas where you have a hard time recruiting veterinarians. And it would be for, not for complex veterinary procedures, but kind of the day-to-day stuff you would, take your pet in for, shots, things like that. It seems right to me, but it's the one where I'm climbing the mountain, but I'm certainly not going to yodel when I get to the top.
Cool. Rachel?
Yeah, I tend to lean toward supporting this one. I guess I packed my backpack, but I haven't started to the trailhead yet. This is another one where I think, why am I as a voter making this decision? And part of the answer is this was taken up at the legislature and they could not come to a consensus on whether this was a good idea or how to do it. It seems fairly logical to me. But again, not being an expert in veterinary medicine, I don't have a high level of confidence.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Mark on this one and that side of it, where I think this will provide more care. And I mean, my last annual physical, I went to the physician's assistant. Perfectly fine. I've been to nurse practitioners before. My mom was an RN. Maybe that's why I'm perfectly fine seeing somebody other than the big guy or big woman. And same with the vet. I think this person would have to go through a pretty extensive schooling process, and they'd be well trained. So I have 2 dogs. I'd be more than happy for them, for their annual checkup and shots and things like that, to be looked after by a veterinary professional associate. So I'm climbing the mountain on this one with my dogs, although one of them probably wouldn't make it.
You'd have to take him to the veterinary professional associate then.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And we'd probably be turning around well before bar camp. Okay, here is 130, funding for law enforcement. Mandates $350 million in state general fund spending for law enforcement. Is that kind of sum it up?
Yeah. Well, and I would only add that that 350 million goes to local governments.
Okay. So and how is it distributed? Does it say?
Mm-mm.
Like probably through a granting process or something?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
Curious to hear what you guys think on this one.
that's out of the general fund. What's getting cut? If that comes out of the general fund, what are we cutting?
I think that's exactly the question. What do you think, Rachel?
I'm climbing the mountain on this one. We've seen shortages in staffing for law enforcement in local governments around the state. There's been a lot of pressure on police and sheriff's offices and individual officers that we haven't seen in the past. It's an important job. It's a really hard job. And it's not a popular job right now. And so I think creating some dollars to help local departments recruit and retain officers is pretty important. And that death benefit that will be added here, $1 million death benefit for families of slain officers, is some nice security for people who go into the profession. And I have some concerns about dictating a $350 million expenditure out of existing funds. But it does not have to be in a single year. The state can take some time to allocate those funds, and it is a total of 350. It's not 350 every year. And in the context of a $44 billion state budget, I think we can carve out a mere 350 million for something that's critical to the safety of our communities.
See, I took it to mean 350 million a year. So if it's not 350 million a year, absolutely, I'm climbing the mountain for it.
Oh, I've just changed your mind. How about that?
You did. Mark?
My heart is climbing the mountain on this one, but my butt's sitting on the couch. We need more dollars for law enforcement. We need it for every reason that Rachel articulated. I think she's 100% spot on about that. We need those dollars. My fear is out of that $40 billion budget, the legislature really only gets to control a very small piece of it, maybe 10, 12 billion. The rest of it gets kind of sucked up in mandates and the like. And my fear is this, this passes and the state legislature has to start allocating these dollars. Where do they come from? So they're not new dollars, right? They're existing general fund obligations. And I think there are two sources that get cut when times are tough or when mandates come along. And that's higher ed and transportation. And so local governments are going to get these dollars, but it's going to come at the expense of transportation in their communities. And I just think, yep, we need them. They need to be there. But I would just I think, to leave the flexibility of this to the legislature to figure out how to best allocate those precious resources they have. So again, heart is climbing the mountain. I want to see this happen for law enforcement officials. I'm just not sure this is the right way to do it.
Actually, this would be a good use for the guns and ammo tax.
Touche. Well, you're the tiebreaker, Kyle.
Oh, I'm climbing the mountain on this one.
Oh, you are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, you convinced him, remember?
That's right. I already forgot.
Okay. And
Bum, bum, bum. The last one. Oh my gosh, we made it this far and now Kyle is breaking up. Kyle, are you there, buddy? Sort of. Did you transition the slide? Because we don't see it.
I know, I did. I've got to go and come back.
There we
Oh,
go.
no, we got
Can
you.
you
We
hear
got you now. Just bring it back up. Let's give it a shot.
Okay.
Or let's
Where
just
the hell
talk
did
about
go?
it.
I have to say, I think this is probably the most interesting, controversial, and discussed item on the ballot. And I love democracy and I love the voting season. But this year's ballot, there's so much that I feel very apathetic about. I don't think it's things that I really want to be making decisions about as a voter. And it's tough choices because I don't have the expertise. I don't have a strong opinion. And so this one kind of stands out among the other things that we get to vote on our ballots this year.
Absolutely. Can you guys hear
As
me?
something you're not apathetic about?
I am not apathetic. No, I think this is very interesting.
Let's hear it.
I think I'm going to climb the mountain on this one. The proponents have some pretty compelling statistics, I think, on who's deciding who is representing us in Colorado.
How about we didn't, let's talk about what it is first. We didn't say that. Sorry, I apologize.
Yeah, sorry, I got ahead of myself.
Yeah, all candidate primary and ranked choice voting. I apologize. Go ahead.
Yeah, so there's a small percentage of people that are showing up at primary elections and deciding, in many cases, the real races in our elections, those primaries. I'm a lifelong unaffiliated voter, like 47% of Coloradans who are unaffiliated, and I was very pleased with the voters' decision a few years ago to allow people like me to participate in one primary or the other. I thought that was an improvement. But I really like the idea that everybody, regardless of party affiliation, has to compete for everyone's votes. And that may mean we get multiple candidates from one party or another. But I hope, as the proponents do, that this is going to push candidates to appeal to a much broader swath of voters and more Coloradans that are probably the average voter versus folks who are on the fringes. I think it's worth a shot. There are other communities who have been trying this out, and I think the results are kind of mixed. So part of what I think makes this exciting is it's a big policy experiment. And I think we ought to be doing a little more policy experimentation. The state of Alaska has adopted ranked choice voting. They've already put it on the ballot to repeal it. So, we try this out, we make this decision. It's not forever. And given in particular the almost super majority that one party has on the seats, that's not reflecting who we are as Coloradans. I'd like to give this a shot.
Kyle? I think we
Agree.
lost.
I'm absolutely climbing the mountain on this one. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. I am absolutely climbing the mountain on this one for all the reasons Rachel said, but also because when I do run for governor in a couple of years, this would be the system I would be running in, and I think my chances would be better.
Have you told your audience what your platform is?
No.
Because I am very much in favor of what you have told me in the past your platform is.
We have not revealed my platform yet. We're saving that for a special announcement.
Special announcements, which, by the way, we have another special announcement coming probably next week. Can't wait to share that with the listeners. So this ballot initiative does two things. It's called all candidate primary and ranked choice voting. So it actually does two things. It says, we're not going to change the way candidates get on the ballot. So you want to go through the caucus or assembly process, you can do that, and that's how you get on the ballot. That's not going to change at all. But we're going to put everybody on the same primary ballot. We're going to put all the Republicans together with the Democrats, the unaffiliated, whoever's running, we're putting them all on the same ballot. And then we're going to allow everybody to vote on those. And then the top 4 candidates go forward. And then you will somehow rank choice those top 4. So, Rachel's your first choice. She gets 4 votes. Kyle's your second choice. He gets 3 votes. Mark's your third choice. He gets 2 votes, and so on. And then they kind of tally all those up, and that determines who the winner is. I completely agree with Rachel in terms of it gives us, most of our races are settled in the primaries. And so we're really truly stuck with one choice. And this gives us more options. And my hope is this is going to help us govern from the middle a little bit more. I think that's where we need to be, because, we've kind of seen what the disaster is like. I don't know if it's a disaster. That might be too strong of a word in the state legislature now, but it is incredibly polarized, much more polarized than it was in the past. And so I'm climbing the mountain on this one, but I'm climbing the mountain for one more reason that you two did not mention. Republicans have sucked so bad with the current election system. This can't possibly be any worse for Republicans moving forward. And so maybe this will create some sort of advantage for us to be able to grow our numbers from these super minorities that we're currently in. So I think that's the trifecta, all of us climbing the mountain on this one.
I it out.
Yep, this happens every once in a while, Kyle. You're breaking up on us a little bit again, but I think we'll be able to work around that. But hey, I think we made it to the end. He's locked up. Rachel, what did you think your first time on the We Have Issues podcast? Was it as exhilarating and delightful as you thought it was going to be coming into it?
Well, it's been fun. I don't know if I'd say exhilarating, but it's been fun. Well,
we certainly appreciate you being here, having you on, and obviously you showed us just how important it was to have a qualified and smart person on the podcast to keep us in check. So thank you so much for doing that. We really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me.
Kyle, we got you now. Any parting words?
I'm probably breaking up still.
Nope. Give us the parting words.
Just thank you, Rachel, for being on. You can't hear me?
No, we got you. We got you.
Oh, you've got me.
Yes.
No, I just wanted to say thanks for Rachel for coming on. To Rachel for coming on. I hope our listeners got something out of this, understanding the broad issues and some of the different perspectives on them. And so I think it's been a lot of fun. Thanks for doing it. And Rachel, you can mail your check to us. Mark will give you the P.O. box number. And so.
Or how about this? We'll settle for a like and subscribe.
Yes.
On YouTube.
Yes.
We will settle for that in this circumstance because, we can't just keep providing this incredibly insightful content unless people actually show us they want to have it.
I might
so
be in
like
bar
and
camp
subscribe.
thinking about that one.
Yeah. She'll be hiding out at bar camp so we can't get her checkbook. So, all right. Well, Again, this is Kyle Blakely and Mark Waller with We Have Issues. And our guest today was Rachel Beck, and we really appreciate all of you joining us. Again, like and subscribe, YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. And please vote this November. Ballots will be out in a few weeks. You have plenty of time to research these issues, but just make sure you vote.